Welcome to this explainer. So if you're someone who cares about your health, your fitness, and all that hard-earned muscle on your body, you've probably run into a very persistent, honestly kind of terrifying fear. It's this idea that the second you skip a meal, the moment you enter a fast, your body just panics, thinks it's starving, and immediately starts cannibalizing your gym gains for fuel. Well, today we're going to dive right into the hard biological science to see what's actually happening deep inside your cells when the kitchen is closed.
It really is the ultimate anxiety for anyone who works out, right? Does intermittent fasting destroy your muscles? It's a completely fair question. But as we unpack some cutting-edge cellular biology and decades of physiological research today, you're going to discover that the science proves the exact opposite. Your body isn't panicking during a fast. It's actually performing highly sophisticated maintenance.
Here's our roadmap for this explainer. We'll start with the great muscle loss myth, then look at the autophagy timeline, mitophagy control, fiber reactions, the hormone tug-of-war, and finally, muscle renewal.
All right, part one, the great muscle loss myth, fact versus fiction.
Okay, so between 12 to 16 hours after your last meal, as your liver glycogen depletes, your body doesn't just hit the panic button. Instead, it runs into this classic gym bro logic that's terrified people for years. You know the assumption? It goes like this. Step 1, no food. Step 2, no protein available in the bloodstream. Step 3, muscles break down. Step 4, your hard-earned tissue is just lost forever. I mean, it sounds totally logical, but it has a massive flaw. It completely ignores the body's super sophisticated priority system. Groundbreaking research by Cahill back in the 1970s, which, by the way, is still heavily cited today, proved that in a fasted state, your body absolutely prioritizes fatty acids and stored glycogen. Breaking down actual structural muscle protein for energy, that's an absolute last resort, not a first response. Your body literally only touches muscle significantly if your fat stores are extremely, dangerously low.
To really visualize what's happening here, I want you to picture your muscle cells like a massive, bustling factory. They're constantly producing, contracting, repairing, and, well, generating waste. Damaged proteins pile up, and cellular debris just kind of accumulates on the factory floor over time. Fasting doesn't shut this factory down, not at all. Instead, fasting is the signal that calls in the night shift cleaning crew. This internal recycling process is known as autophagy. By breaking down the damaged internal components and recycling those amino acids for immediate use, autophagy actually reduces the need for the body to break down structural muscle protein.
Moving on to Section 2, the autophagy timeline. Exactly when do these cleaners arrive?
This cellular cleaning process relies on some incredibly complex molecular machinery. We're talking proteins with names like Beclin-1, LC3, and the ULK1 complex, and they literally bag up cellular trash into structures called autophagens. Research measuring LC3 and P62 degradation shows that right around the 16 to 18-hour mark, we see a measurable bump in autophagy markers in skeletal muscle. By 24 hours, this activity is steadily rising. The absolute peak of this cellular cleaning crew, where autophagism formation and lysosome breakdown are going full tilt, happens between 24 and 48 hours. And after 48 hours, well, the body begins metabolic adaptation, essentially adjusting the whole process based on cellular stress signals.
The crucial point here is summed up beautifully by some fascinating research from scientists like Komatsu. In their mouse studies, when they genetically blocked autophagy in muscle tissue, the mice suffered progressive muscle weakness and this abnormal buildup of toxic proteins. And that was even without fasting. This proves that autophagy isn't just some optional maintenance package, it is literally the very means by which muscle tissue survives. Without it, the muscle pretty much poisons itself with its own waste.
Section 3, mitophagy control. Think of this as your internal quality assurance.
Every single time your muscles contract, your mitochondria, the powerhouses of the cell, are exposed to oxidative stress. Over time, they get banged up. And a broken mitochondrion isn't just lazy, it actively leaks electrons, creating massive oxidative damage that can literally trigger cell death. Enter mitophagy. Mitophagy is the selective identification and removal of these damaged mitochondria. It's mostly controlled by what scientists call the PINK1/Parkin pathway. Basically, think of it as the ultimate quality control mechanism. It takes out the broken cellular machines before they can wreak havoc on your muscle tissue.
So fasting is actually a massive upgrade for your muscles. By clearing out the broken machines through mitophagy, you're literally creating physical and metabolic space for something called mitochondrial biogenesis. That's a fancy way of saying the creation of brand new, highly efficient mitochondria. And a muscle with a higher percentage of healthy mitochondria, it contracts with more force, resists fatigue way better, and recovers faster.
Okay, Section 4. Fiber reactions. Type 1 versus Type 2.
Mainstream fitness advice almost never mentions this fascinating biological fact. Fasting doesn't actually act uniformly across all your muscle tissues. Human skeletal muscle is primarily made of two types of fibers. Type 1 fibers are your slow-twitch, highly oxidative posture and endurance muscles. Research by experts like Jamart and Schiaffino shows these type 1 fibers mount a really robust, highly sensitive autophagy response during a fast. They handle metabolic stress beautifully. On the flip side, type 2 fibers, your fast-twitch, explosive power muscles that rely heavily on glycolysis, they have a weaker autophagy response. Once a fast stretches past that 48-hour mark, these type 2 fibers become much more vulnerable to atrophy signals through the MTR pathway. So basically, everyday posture muscles handle fasting wonderfully, but your explosive power muscles need careful consideration if you're pushing into really extended fasts.
Which brings us to Section 5, the hormone tug-of-war, growth hormone versus cortisol. While autophagy is quietly sweeping up the factory floor, there are some massive background negotiations happening at the hormonal level, and these negotiations ultimately determine your actual muscle retention. If you want to know what truly protects your muscle during a fast, look at this number right here. During a fast, growth hormone secretion doesn't just get a little bump, it spikes dramatically. According to a landmark 1988 study by Ha in the Journal of Clinical Investigation, growth hormone can shoot up by 3 to 5 times its normal baseline.
Why is that absolutely crucial? Well, it sets up an epic hormonal tug-of-war. On one side, you've got growth hormone acting as the protector. Now, it isn't directly building muscle during a fast because there isn't enough insulin or IGF-1 present for that. But it protects the structure by shifting the body's primary fuel source strictly over to fat burning. On the opposing side, you have cortisol, the dismantler. As a fast pushes past 24 hours, cortisol starts rising as a general stress response, and it pushes for protein breakdown. Your muscle retention depends entirely on the balance between growth hormone's protective signaling and cortisol's catabolic pressure.
So what does this actually mean for you practically? Let's look at the data synthesized by researchers Tinsley and Labonte back in 2015. For healthy adults who normally eat adequate protein, short to mid-length fasts, meaning anything up to 48 hours, result in no clinically significant loss of lean muscle mass. None. The body's preservation mechanisms, like that growth hormone spike and internal recycling, are more than enough. However, for extended fasts over 72 hours, the risk of actual muscle volume loss does increase, and the ultimate risk multiplier, combining a 72-hour plus extended fast with heavy resistance training without a proper refeeding protocol.
And finally, Section 6, muscle renewal, the grand reopening.
This is the ultimate payoff. To understand exactly what happens when the fast ends and food returns, we need a massive paradigm shift. You absolutely must separate muscle degradation from muscle renewal. Based on a 2013 physiological review by Sandry, muscle degradation is a pathological condition, like cachexia or being stuck on bed rest, where you actually lose the structural steel of the muscle factory, the functional actin and myosin. Muscle renewal via autophagy is completely different. It's the selective clearing of accumulated cellular noise and deformed proteins. The cleaning crew isn't destroying the factory's structural steel, they're literally just taking out the garbage that was keeping the machines from running smoothly.
Because of this, when you break your fast, you aren't just eating. You are initiating the grand reopening of a newly optimized factory. The post-fast refeeding phase is this highly sensitive remodeling period for your fresh, newly cleaned cells.
Research, including some amazing studies by Derricks on skeletal muscle, shows exactly what this grand reopening looks like in practice. Thanks to the fast, you now have increased mitochondrial efficiency, and you've successfully cleared out those aging protein aggregates. But the real magic? The tissue becomes hyper-responsive to anabolic signals. When food is reintroduced, there's a documented elevation in MTR pathway activity. Your muscles are practically primed and screaming to absorb protein and respond to strength training stimuli far more efficiently than if they had just been constantly fed without a break.
We've covered a tremendous amount of ground today, moving all the way from those old myths of starvation to the incredible reality of cellular quality control. So I want to leave you with a question to ponder. What surprised you most about how your muscles actually work during a fast? Did the whole factory cleaning crew metaphor kind of change your perspective? If this explainer shifted your paradigm at all, I highly encourage you to drop your thoughts in the comments. And more importantly, share this with anyone you know who's still trapped by that old muscle loss myth.
The science is incredibly clear, it's totally fascinating, and it proves our bodies are far, far smarter than we usually give them credit for. Keep learning, stay focused, and I'll see you in the next one.